Hey folks, DC here from DC's Gadgets. Today's the 5th of April 2020. It's a rainy Sunday and it's a good thing because we haven't had rain in like 4 weeks. And there's all kinds of plants around here just fixing to pop. So I'm expecting now, as soon as this rain really gets going, we're going to get some. Hang on, tell her to shut up. We're going to get going with a nectar flow because we're due for a nectar flow. So this should be fun times. So the whole purpose of this video is I was supposed to go to Houston back in March to do a talk on making backyard queens, kind of like micro queen rearing, not small scale. We're talking mini micro scale. But I couldn't go because of the coronavirus thing. So I'm gonna do it myself. Do some YouTube videos. I'll talk about it a little bit in the truck, and I'll do some practical stuff out in the bee yard, put together a cell builder, and do some graphs, and show you how the whole thing works. So, when you go to bee school, the classes that typically fill up fast at bee school is anything to do with making queens, anything to do with making splits, and anything to do with bee sex. And we're going to talk about it too. We're going to talk about making queens, and we're going to talk about bee sex. So, hopefully we'll get a pretty good crowd before this is over with. Maybe I'll get some more followers. So, a little bit of my history. I've been raising bees. I've been keeping bees for about 4 years. Started playing with queens in my first year. I made like 2 or 3. I was really intrigued with the whole queen rearing thing. A little better in the second year. Last year, I actually built an incubator and changed my technique quite a bit. And last year, I managed to put over 400 queens through my incubator. The biggest hassle in raising queens is getting them mated. I only got like 200 and something mated out of the 400 that came out. And that's really kind of sucks, but that's what it is. Especially since I'm still working a full-time job Monday through Friday and playing with queens on weekends. Hopefully, eventually I'll figure some of this mating thing out, and I'm actually looking at, in the future, doing instrumental insemination. That way, my mating numbers should be up in the 90s, because instrumental is pretty cool. But anyway, making queens, anybody can make queens. It's not that difficult to make a queen. Getting a queen made is the hard part. We're going to discuss some of that. But before you get started, we need to talk about some of the equipment you need. So the first thing, you got to have at least one good, strong colony. And you could make a couple queens with one colony, but it's really hard to do, and you're really going to stretch your resources. So I would say to start off with, if you want to try to make queens, at a minimum, I'd have 3 beehives. 3 good, strong colonies working bees. And even better if you got 5. And even better than that is if you've got a friend with some beehives that you can kind of partner up with. Maybe you've got 3 and your buddy's got 3, and between the two you get 6 colonies, and you want to make 6 or 8 queens so that you can both make some splits, then pairing up makes things easier, and it'll make things easier on your bees when you make your cell builder and your mating nukes. So that's an idea you can think about. If you got a club with some people in the club, people you hang out with, somebody you know, to make it easier. So at least one good strong colony. 3 to 5 is optimal. You need to have at least one queen excluder, because the method we're going to talk about here is a separate starter and finisher. You start your queen cells in one box, and then you move them over to a queen right box in a super above a queen excluder, and the bees in that box finish them out. So you need to have a queen excluder. And whether you use plastic or metal, that's personal choice. I personally prefer plastic, but you know, some people drive Fords, some drive Chevys, right? You're going to need some kind of mating boxes, and there's a lot of variety out there. If you look up mating boxes, a lot of your commercial queen breeders will use a thing called a queen castle. It's typically a 10-frame box that's split in 4 segments. You make a special half-size frame, and you can put 4 queens in there at a time. You can get these little mini mating nukes made of styrofoam, but there's expense involved in getting all these things, and for the backyard queen breeder, if you're just trying to make 5 or 6 queens once or twice a year, you don't want to spend a lot. What I did the first year I was doing queens, I took some 5-frame nukes and put a divider board down the middle and put holes offset on each end so I could put 2 frames on each side, run 2 queens. Not that difficult to do. If you got a couple 5-frame nuke boxes and your entrance is on one side or the other, you can make a divider board that goes down in the middle and split it into 2 frames. Or you can use the 5-frame as it is and make your divider board and just kind of condense it down. And I'll put some pictures up. You can put You can put a divider board in there, kind of like a follower board that top bar guys use to reduce the actual volume of the space. So instead of having 5 frames in there, you can get 2 or 3. Because you don't need a lot of bees for the queen to go get mated. A lot of little mini mating nukes, the styrofoam mini mating nukes, they typically put like 1 or 2 cups of bees in these things with a couple of frames with some comb on it. And then they drop in either a queen cell or a virgin queen, and she goes out and gets mated, and you come back and check her. The commercial guys can do this because they have time to go check them. The problem with the situation, if you got just a really small amount of comb, if your queen starts laying and she fills up every cell and every hole in the thing in like 2 days, they're liable to swarm. Whereas if you're running like 2 medium frames, which is what most of my mating nukes are, 2 medium frames, I've got at least a week. I mean, she can go out and mate, start laying eggs. As long as I can get back in there within a week of her mating, I shouldn't have a problem. Get much longer than that, you're stressing it. So, but you gotta have some way to get them mated. Cell builder box, and you can use any number of things to make a cell builder box. And there are so many varieties of cell builders. You can use a full-size conifer cell builder box. You can use a 5-frame medium nuke. What I typically use when I'm making queens on a regular basis, my cell builder is typically a 5-frame medium nuke box, and I run every week. I graft like 10 to 12 a week, and I typically get 8 or 9 queens out. So whatever you want to use. Again, your own resources. Don't go out and invest in something you're going to use once or twice. If you've got a medium nuke box, you can use that for cell builder. Typically the closed box, which is what we're going to show, is typically done with a deep nuke box and some ventilation holes cut in the sides and the bottom. If I'll put a picture up of that. That way the bees can get air coming in and out, because in a closed box they're stuck inside this thing for at least 24 hours. And you put a cup in the bottom with some water in it and drop a sponge in there or a couple rolled up paper towels so the bees have something to drink. They don't fall in water and drown. You're going to need at least 1 frame of actual drawn comb without foundation, because the method I'm going to show you involves actually cutting pieces of comb out with a good sharp knife. And you can't cut it out if it's not foundation, obviously. So you're going to need at least 1 piece. So if you're not running just drawn comb, if everything in your box is all foundation, then about a month before you want to make queens, you need to get a couple frames in there with maybe a starter strip on it and get them to draw some wax so you've got something that the queen can lay in and you actually cut cells out of, because you need to be able to cut them out. You're going to need some reading glasses. You don't have to have them, but if you're over 50, you probably need some reading glasses. Dollar Tree, I buy reading glasses. They're 2.5x. When I'm grafting, they're great. I can see everything at the bottom. Nice to have. You're going to need a good sharp knife. I carry a fishing knife in my tool bag. And then a spray bottle with some sugar water in it. It's pretty good when you're making your cell builder, because sometimes you get bees flying around. You need to spray them, get them down inside the box. So a little spray bottle is nice to have. So that's all the equipment you need. Now once you get all your equipment together, take inventory of what you got. So another question is not so much how many queens can I make, it's how many queens can I practically make. How many queens do I have the facilities to get mated? So if you've got access to 40 beehives, but you only have access to 3 mating nukes, you can't make 40 queens. Obviously, you make 3. So it depends upon your resources. And if you've got access to 6 beehives and 8 mating nukes, then you could feasibly make 8 queens. So typically, most backyard beekeepers, you probably got access to 3 to 5 mating nukes. So figure on 5 to 6 queens is what you're going to go for. And if you get double cells, you can put 2 cells in each mating nuke. And that way you're kind of hedging your bets. The first queen out is going to kill her sister, but if you put 2 in a box, it's not a big deal. So once you determine how many you can make and how much your resources are, you set a plan for what day you want to do this. And about 4 or 5 days prior to the day you want to do this, you want to take that nice drawn wax comb you have and stick it down in your brood box so the queen can start laying eggs in there, because she will. As soon as you put that frame with that nice drawn wax in the middle of that brood box, and I would actually open the brood chamber. People say not to, but I'd find where she's laying at, take 2 frames, split them, put that sucker dead smack between 2 frames of brood, close it up. She will jump on that and start laying on it. So you want to do that about 5 days before you want to graft. That way you know that on that frame you're going to have eggs and larvae all the way up from day 1 to day 5. And they're going to have something on there the bees can make a queen from. So I typically consider my day 1 to be a Saturday because I'm working Monday through Friday. Saturday I'm off, so I can do most of my stuff on a Saturday. So on Tuesday, I'm putting that drone comb in the middle of my box so she can lay some eggs on. So then Saturday, my day 1 Saturday, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get ready to make my cell builder and get ready to do this whole process. So if I have the time, sometime late Saturday morning, early Saturday afternoon, we go out to whatever colony I want to take my stuff off of. I'm going to restack the bees so that I've got at least 3 brood frames above a queen excluder in the top box, along with 2 nice food frames and, if possible, a nice pollen frame. And other than that, I really don't care what's in the top box. But I want 3 good brood frames, preferably open brood. And at least one of those brood frames I want to be the one that she's just been laying on, that I'm going to cut my grafts out of. And some food frames. I'm going to stick that all back together, put those frames in the top box over the excluder. All the bees are shaken in the bottom box. I'm going to leave them there for at least 3 hours. When I come back 3 hours later, the open brood frames have attracted nurse bees to the top box. The food frames have got worker bees storing food up there. I don't have a whole lot of foragers, so in that top box there aren't that many bees that typically fly. So when I come back after 3 or 4 hours, I'll pop the top off the box and look in there, depending upon what I see. If all those frames that I put in earlier are totally covered in bees, I'm just going to shake those bees in the box, and that's going to be enough to make my cell builder. If they're not covered and need more bees, well, I'm going to do a little bit different. But I take my cell builder box, stick it on the ground, I'll stick a couple food frames in there, I'll put my shaker box on top, which is just a deep box with a queen excluder on it. Put the shaker box on there, and I'm just going to start shaking bees into my cell builder. And because I've had the queen excluder above it beforehand, or above there, I'm not really too concerned with finding the queen in this group. But I'll put the shaker box on anyway, just in case. And most cases, there's enough bees in that box at this time to just do this. Now, if I didn't have time to go out late morning, early afternoon, I'm just going to go in the box and I'm going to find 8 to 12 frames of bees and just shake them down through a queen excluder and make sure I'm looking for the queen. If I spot her, I'll put her in a cage, keep her in my pocket. And as long as I don't spot her, I'm just shaking bees down there. Once I've got enough bees in my cell builder that I'm satisfied with, I'm going to put 2 frames of drawn comb, or a frame of comb and a frame of foundation. I'm going to put 1 frame of open nectar, maybe a little capped honey, and 1 frame that's got some nectar, honey, and pollen. I want a good pollen frame, I want a good food frame. I want some drawn combs so the bees can draw wax on. I'm going to put the lid on this thing and I'm going to close it up. I'm going to leave them for at least 3 hours. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to put in my grafts. So we're going to stop here with the talking. I'm going to hook this to the next video. We're actually going to go out in the yard. We're going to put together a cell builder.